You might be wasting your time every single morning. Let's say you want to create a pivot table and the data that you have is in 4 different worksheets in 4 different tables. Now, instead of combining these tables first and then creating a pivot table, you can simply create a pivot table using this method. So in this video, we're going to learn 2 different examples. We're going to use 2 different examples to create pivot table from multiple worksheets. So make sure to watch this video till the end and do not forget to download a free ebook and a course at the end of this video. So let's get started. Now in the first example, I have 4 different worksheets and now I'm going to create a pivot table without combining data from these worksheets. So let's check it out. Before we start, let me show you a small twist here. In the south and north, I have date column as a second column, but in east and west, I have date column as a first column in the data. Now, when I'm using Power Query will take care of difference of position of the date column. So first thing you need to do is you need to convert your data table into an Excel table. So I have done this for all these 4 data sets. But if you are starting out, you just need to select your data and then go to insert and apply Excel table from this option. Or you can also use this keyboard shortcut Control T.
Now, there's one more thing which is very, very important here. When I convert my data into an Excel table for all the 4 tables, I also change the name of the table. So when you go to table design and then you have their table name, and for south, I have south, and for north, I have north, and for east and west, again, I have east and west. So this is important. You need to convert your data into an Excel table and then give them a relevant name, because we're going to use this name in Power Query Editor. So this is very, very important.
So I'm going to go to Data tab, and from here, I'm going to click on From Table and Range. Or you can also go to From Other Sources and then From Table and Range. So I have my data from South worksheet into the Power Query Editor. You can see in the applied steps, I have 2 steps here. The first is the source, and the second is the type that Power Query change when you load your data into the Power Query. So what I'll do, I'll click on my query and then I'll copy it. And then using the same Control V shortcut, I'm going to paste it 3 times. So I have 4 queries here. Now, by selecting the second one and then selecting the source step here, I'm going to change the name of the table from here. So instead of south, I'm going to type north. And that is the reason I have changed the name of each table from table 1 to the actual name of the region. Now the moment I hit enter, it loads the data from the north worksheet. And the same thing is for west and east. Now what I'll do, I'll also change the name of the queries. North and west and east. Now from here, the next thing is to close this Power Query Editor without loading this data into the worksheet. So what I'll do, I'll click on close and load and then close and load too. And from this import data dialog box, I'm going to select only create connection. So it will not load the data into the worksheet, but it will just create a connection of the data. And here I have 4 different data connections: south, north, west, and east. All right, so now we have all the connections of the data. Now I'm going to go to my data tab, and from get data drop down, I'm going to go to launch Power Query Editor. And I'm again into my Power Query Editor, and from here, I'm going to click on south, and then I'm going to click on append queries drop down, and then append queries as new. Now, as I have more than 3 tables, so I'm going to click on 3 or more tables, and I have south already here. So I'm going to add north, west, and east. And then I'm going to click OK. And here's one more thing. If you see the date column in the south and north region is now shifted to the second column. And let me remove the filter and let me rename this query as combined data. Now our data is ready. The next thing is to create a pivot table. So again, I'll go to close and load to. And from here, I'm going to click on pivot table, report, and then click OK. And now I have, same pivot table fields just to create my pivot table, the way we create our pivot table normally in Excel. So I'll go with customer type. I'll go with order priority, and then units sold. And now I can create this pivot table the way I want. The whole idea was to combine data from all these 4 worksheets and then put it somewhere in the workbook as a pivot table. So this is how you can combine your data from different worksheets without actually combining it manually and then create a pivot table. Now, this second example is my personal favorite. I have 2 different tables where I have a few details in one table and a few details in the second table. Now, I want to create a pivot table, but without combining these tables manually. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a relationship between these 2 tables, and then we will create a pivot table. So let's check it out. All right, so we are ready here. So first of all, what I'll do, I'll go to my data tab, and from there, I'm going to click on this small drop down that is called data model. And from the data model, I'm going to click on relationships. Now, I'm going to click on new, and here I have 2 different worksheets and 2 different tables. So here I'm going to select the first table from here, that is invoice data, and choose the invoice number. That is the common column in both of the data tables. And then again, the second, which is master table, and then again, the invoice number. And now I'm going to click OK and close this. Now, before we create our pivot table, first, let me show you something. Let me go to my data tab again. And from the data model drop down, I'm going to go to manage data model. And here in the Power Pivot window, you can see I have 2 data sets, invoice data and master data. The way I had in my is exactly, and this is exactly same I have in my workbook. But when I click on diagram view, it will show you this diagram of relationship that these 2 data sets have with each other. So the invoice data is connected with the master table using the invoice number. Now let me close it and come back to my workbook. And now let's create our pivot table. So I'm going to go to my insert tab, and instead of just clicking on the pivot table option, I'm going to click on this small drop down, and then I'll go to from data model, new worksheet. And here you can see I have columns from both of the data tables. So what I'll do, I'll simply add customer type here, order priority, and then shipment provider in the columns. And from the second table, which is invoice data, I'm going to use quantity here, or let's say if I use total amount. Let me change the formatting a little bit. So go to currency, none, and here we go. So here I have my pivot table from 2 different data sets. Hey, thanks for watching this video, and you can download your free ebook that I have promised from the link in the description. And make sure to subscribe to the channel because I'll be coming out with a lot of cool Excel tips and tricks in coming weeks. So make sure to subscribe and like this video.